what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Science vs. Scientism. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. I am joined by YouTuber Quantum Eraser. How are you doing, John? Good to have you.
Yes, sir. Doing fine.
Excellent stuff. Now, you've got a bit of housekeeping that you want to do before we launch into the demolition of Einstein. So do you want to start where you want to start? And I'll pop myself on mute. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. Like I told you, I nearly had to be resuscitated from tear-jerking belly laugher syndrome over your last live stream, the 317. About the 15:10 to 15:30 minute mark, it was like Wild Kingdom, man. I couldn't recover. Didn't think I was gonna make it.
Okay.
I usually
for the audience's benefit, I'm just so it's self-contained on this show. So on that particular debate, was it 317? Did you say?
It was 317. Yeah.
317. So Rumpus has developed this new tactic. So those who know the Rumpus, great. Those who don't, sorry. That he will just talk non-stop in the Hangout when anyone else talks, so that it's just total disruption. And the only way I've been able to get around that is to silence the entire Hangout so that I can actually talk and be heard. And then today I chose to actually time it so that I'd say, right, I'm going to unmute the Hangout so you can hear what's going on. I unmute the Hangout, and rather than it being Rumpus continually talking, it's Arwin screaming, "Shut up!" at the top of his lungs. It was very funny.
And it wasn't like an order, right? It was like, please, for the love of God, grant us mercy, right? And I couldn't recover. I was done here for about 90 minutes, man. I just couldn't recover. I usually listen to, something in the background. I usually tweak the presentations, little tweaks here and there, and I put that on. And that came on, I'm done, man.
This is why Arwin is ace. There's no two ways about it.
You have to pull that one out, dude. Timestamp that thing, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it was like Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom or Marty Stauffer's Wild America. They pan away, take the sound away, and then they turn the sound back on and pan back. It just struck me, man. I was done for. So I had to gather myself over the past 45 minutes or so. I don't know, man. I don't know how this is going to go.
There was something else, though, because you said to me yesterday that you wanted a bit of latitude to do something at the beginning of the show, so there must have been something else.
Yeah, let's take care of a few pieces of old business. And you go ahead and pop my screen back up.
Yeah, no worries.
Tell me when it's up.
Yeah, you're up.
So yeah, I wanted to go back because, like I said, we did the gas pressure and Cavendish presentation, and I said, just imagine what comments I'm going to get, right? So I took a few out of there. I said, let me just take a look at these guys and see what comments that they're making after I went on and on about, don't ask me about pressure gradients. That's not the question. How many times I say that? Tell me how you can have gas pressure without a container. And I just went through the comments. I said, my word, let me go through here. Let me take a good sample size of all the comments. And this is what I come up with. Some more latitude with that. We'll go over a couple things with science, and we'll deal with Newton, because we didn't deal with Newton directly last time. It was Cavendish, but I didn't want to let him seep through the stream without dealing with him. So we can start off right here whenever you're ready.
I'm ready whenever you are. You just launch straight into it, John.
Yeah. So, okay. Like I said, I got these comments. They're probably the usual suspects. I can recognize a few names in here. So we got Kaiser Schnitzel, Kaiser Soze. Comparing gas pressure to atmospheric pressure is a false equivocation. Now, there's no such animal as a false equivocation, and a false is with an S, by the way. So A false equivocation is actually no equivocation. And if you were going for a false equivalence fallacy, atmospheric pressure right here is made of gases. The atmosphere is made of gases, and I'm talking about gas pressure. So I really don't know what to say about that. Zanuck 2, you can have a solid gas not in a container. So we can have solid gases, huh? Oh, brother. James Blood. So John is denying that there is an observable and obvious pressure gradient. Here we go again, pressure gradients, or even atmospheric pressure, whatever that is. Slight nihilist. Where is your real world example? They're back to the air pressure gradients, right? Gotta go with the pressure gradients, even after I said it like 25 times. That's not the question, right? Miles Davis, I don't think I ever talked to him, but I think you guys talk about him all the time. So basically, what we got here, right? Why does air pressure decrease with altitude? Well, in other words, pressure gradients. Science is ace. Why the same statement? So again, pressure gradients. You can't make this stuff up. So Nick, I think it's the Nick with no L, right? There is no mention of the word container in any definitions in any science books. Yeah, okay. And pressure gradients, can't get away from those pressure gradients, boy. Even after I preach on it for about 25 minutes, I just can't get it. Like I told you, that's the knee-jerk response. Everyone, pressure gradients, pressure gradients, pressure gradients, and they did it again. So I don't know what to do about that, dude. I just expose them and move on. And we had one that he was the savior. He wanted to come in and save the day. Only one comment about the Cavendish experiment of gravity. So I think we pretty much nailed that one. But remember, the original hypothesis was if gravity exists, then larger masses will attract smaller masses. Now, what did we say this was? Well, it's an affirming the consequent formological fallacy. So logosists come in to save the day. He said, well, all I have to do is make a different hypothesis. So he did. If larger masses attract smaller masses, then there must exist gravity. I mean, he just switched the P and the Q. I mean, do you think it makes it all better? I really don't know what to say about this. Maybe a picture will encapsulate my feelings on this. How about this? Right? To all those comments. I think that more or less wraps things up.
That's superb.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Unbelievable. Okay. I wanted to stop here for a couple minutes because there's been an interest of new subs, right? And they haven't been debriefed and re-educated. So I didn't want to go too long, but at least we can, take the first shot across the bow. So again, paleontology, anthropology, archaeology, geology, evolutionary biology, whatever that is, and yes, I'm still laughing. Theoretical physics, not experimental. Astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology. These are not frigging sciences, okay? When any of the globetards appeal to science, you just have to wait a few minutes. They're going to do it. Appeal to science and, get within 3 degrees of sincerity and ambiguity. And they say science says, or the body of science. What they mean is these clowns right here. That's what they mean. Make no mistake about it. But these aren't friggin' sciences. Crocheting is more scientific than these clowns combined. Why? Well, the first 6 pretenders can't get to the first step of the scientific method, science, observe a phenomenon, without a time machine. And the final 3 masqueraders, astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology, what we deal mainly here in our genre, they can't formulate scientific hypotheses because they lack viable independent variables, right? If you don't have viable independent variables, you don't have hypotheses. If you don't have hypotheses, then you don't have experiment. If you don't have experiment, then you don't have science. You see how you follow that flow diagram? Quite easy. They can't isolate, test, and validate their dependent variables or their prediction. Scientific hypothesis. It's a hard stop. You know, we don't have to go into a War and Peace novel on why. That's why. Period. End of story. Now, the true sciences, quantum mechanics, that is physics, genetics, chemistry, biochemistry, and biology, are the true sciences. And let me just caveat this guy too. When I say biology, I'm not talking about, just general biology. I'm thinking more of molecular and cell biology. Not your just regular everyday Joes, creating conventions and categorizing things. That's not what I mean. I mean, they're just glorified collators. So that's not what I'm talking about. And remember, each claim from any of these disciplines above, right, they must be accompanied by experiment, preferably repeated, validating each claim. Now, if you get a claim from one of these guys without experiment, then you can toss it, right? It's bollocks. You very rarely have them. I see them every now and again. It's the exception rather than a rule, but you get some, right? But you don't toss out the entire discipline because of a couple boneheads. So leave these guys in there, just toss out that nonsense, and then just keep the validated experiments from these guys from before. Remember, if no experiment, that equals cod swallow horse pucky. We don't need explanations. Any idiot can give us an explanation. With the explanation, we need it validated by experiment. It's not that hard. So if you don't have an experiment validating your explanation, just keep your explanation. Or just go ahead and give it to us, and then we'll flat slap you a while. Also, do not fallaciously indict the actual sciences, these guys, because of these boneheads, right? It's non sequitur. You're in a simple category error. These are clowns, right? These are the sciences. I hope that's clear to everyone. All right. Like I said, we talked about Cavendish before, and really he came 100 years after Newton. He just piled on or added on to Newton. And I don't think we gave Newton his due. So let me go ahead and take care of that right now. So from the chair of physics at Yale, listen closely. This is very important. The laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. You don't have separate laws for big and small things, right? From Alan Adams, professor of physics at MIT, there's no disagreement between quantum mechanics and any experiment that's ever been done. That's a bold statement to make, folks, and he's correct. So let that marinate for a little while. No disagreement between any experiment ever, right? That's why all the physical laws are quantum mechanical laws. So the Newton train wreck. Again, from the chair of physics at Yale, listen to this. First, I want to tell you what goes wrong with Newtonian mechanics. The double slit experiment is a problem. That's what puts the nail in the coffin for Newtonian physics, right? He's not mincing any words with this, is he? The nail in the coffin, that's a pretty dead nail right there. And why is that? Well, we have a double slit experiment with a Newtonian particle, let's say an electron. We close one slit and fire a bevy of electrons, and we get 10 hits at point A. So we close that slit and open the other slit and fire a bevy of electrons, and we get 8 hits at point A. Now, the Newtonian prediction would be if we fired the same bevy of electrons with both slits open, we must get 18 hits at point A. End of story. What do we get? We get a big fat 0. And from the professor of physics at Yale, the chair of physics, what does that mean? That is the end of Newtonian physics. I don't know what else to say about this. I think this is pretty clear, right? I don't think there's any wiggle room here. But what do I get? I get knee-jerk, wiki warrior reaction, right? Well, quantum mechanics only deals with small things, not big things. Wrong. From the American Physical Society, late last year, Bruckner and Koffler showed that it does not matter how many particles are around or how large an object is. Quantum mechanics always holds true. The reason we see our world as we do is because of what we use to observe it. The human body is just barely adequate measuring device. Quantum mechanics does not always wash itself out, because that's what it does most of the time. Why? Because of the acuity of our eyes. But to observe its effects for larger and larger objects, we would need more and more accurate measurement devices. We just do not have the sensitivity to observe the quantum effects around us, right? Just because we don't observe them doesn't mean they're not there. I want to make that perfectly clear. From Professor Anton Zellinger, there is no border between the quantum world and the classical world. It depends on your experiment. From Enberger and Gerlich, matter wave, well, there is no wave. It's matter interference with particles selected from a molecular library. If you're confused about this, go back for a couple weeks and see the quantum mechanics presentation where I deal with this wave nonsense. Okay? But back to the point. They observed interference not with photons, not with mere electrons, with molecules at 10,000 atomic mass units. It's massive. This is massive, folks. Furthermore, and now we're talking about trillions of molecules. From O'Connell in Nature in 2010, an object large enough to be seen by the naked eye placed in superposition. So a team of scientists has succeeded in putting an object large enough to be visible by the naked eye, or to the naked eye, into a mixed state of moving and not moving. So I think I dealt with this enough. If this isn't enough for you, I don't know what to tell you. You need to start over. I'd suggest probably file 13 can your wiki warrior nonsense. All right, to the main subject area. Now, E equals mc squared, right? If this isn't the most recognized equation on the plane, I don't know what is. So let's deal with this first. Number one, this is horse pucky right here. All right, I'm going to tell you why. Number two, equations can't and never will explain anything. At best, they merely describe. In science, scientists are in the business of this guy, explaining via demonstration, by experiment. They're not too much into this. Any idiot can do this. Any idiot can make up a convention and describe something. Who cares? This particular equation is a fairy tale. Watch. Every mythomathematician knows every variable in every equation must be rigorously defined, right? So, energy, mass, and the speed of light. So let's define energy. Richard Feynman, from the Feynman lectures at Caltech. Let's define energy. Okay. It is important to realize that in physics today, we have no knowledge of what energy is. All right. I can stop right here. This equation's done. But I won't. Where's the fun in that, right? We already talked about the second one last week, right? Define mass. From Professor John Wheeler and Edwin Taylor, nature does not offer us any concept as the amount of matter. History has struck down every proposal to define such a term. Even if we could count the number of atoms, or by any other counting method try to evaluate the amount of matter, that number would not equal mass. So, 2 down. Might as well bash the last one, the speed of light. And this is going to get a lot of people's panties in a bunch. I already know that. Number one, it's a convention, right? That's all it is. Contrived from, number two, the average two-way speed of light. Allow me to explain. How do we determine the speed or rate of something? Well, we all know this. We know the distance equals rate times time formula, right? So we're going to try to find rate. So all we have to do is just reorganize the equation, solve for r, correct? It's the t that's in focus here, the time. For this, you need two clocks, right? Everyone knows this. You need clock A, the start point, or the terminus ad quo, and a stop point, clock B, the terminus ad quem. So, with the hilarious part of this, according to Einstein, the moment you move clock B, that clock is desynchronized, folks. It's from his own theories, not scientific theories. You know what I mean. So if you have clock A, if you have two clocks, you have clock A and clock B, and you synchronize them, the moment you pick up that clock B and move it, it's desynchronized. What do you need to know to reconcile and synchronize clock B to clock A after you move clock B? That's right, folks. The one-way speed of light. The thing that you're actually trying to find out, you need to try to find out where to get it from. It's a begging the question fallacy from the Black Lagoon. So the entire exercise is a textbook chasing your tail, begging the question fallacy. And Einstein himself made the very same conclusions from the special and general theory. These aren't actual scientific theories, by the way. From the authorized translation, R.W. Lawson, 1961. It would thus appear as though we were moving here in a logical circle, just like I was talking about. He even states it right up front. Regarding the one-way speed of light from the same source, Einstein concluded that light requires the same time to traverse the path A to M as for the path B to M is in reality neither a supposition nor a hypothesis about the physical nature of light, but a stipulation which I can make of my own free will in order to arrive at a definition of simultaneity, right? He's talking about this synchronized bit up here, right? Therefore, the speed of light, the average two-way speed is what we're talking about. This, folks, is just merely a convention that we've agreed upon, right? It's not that it's wrong, and we talked about this in the quantum mechanics presentation. You can't create a convention, right, and then take what you've created out from inside the convention, outside the convention, and then make statements on reality. It's nonsensical buffoonery. This is a child can understand this, or a child can reconcile it, right? All right, so the big ones, the ones that everyone knows, obviously, relativity, both special relativity and general relativity. Like I said, these aren't scientific theories, neither of them. Why? Because they don't have any viable independent variables or hypotheses. Go try to find one. Please, at the end of this video, go try to find some scientific hypotheses for either of these knucklehead colloquial theories and post it. Good luck. So relativity, SR and GR, via different mechanisms, speed versus gravity, can dilate, bend, and warp time, right? That's what they're saying, essentially. Or the main premises of each of the colloquial theories. But the primary school falsification of this, right? Time is a conceptual relationship between two motions. Specifically, it's based on alleged single rotation of the Earth on its axis in respect to the sun a day. We know this stuff ain't happening up here, but you guys get the picture. So time, essentially, time is a concept. Concepts aren't physical. It is without chemical formula, structure, charge, mass, momentum, or spin. It has no millielectron volts, no kilocalories or kilojoules, no dimensionality or orthogonality, no direction or location, right? You can't put some time in a jar and paint it red. I mean, come on now, let's reason together. Can you dilate, bend, or warp non-physical concepts? If you can, you need a vocation change, right? To carnival. You could be a pixie dust spreader on a tilt-a-whirl, bark for the yak woman. It's time to change your vocation. Is it your contention that if you have poison ivy on the brain, you could scratch it by thinking of sandpaper? Freedom is a concept also. Can you bend that? This is very important, very enlightening. That which you are using to measure isn't the thing that you're measuring. For example, a football field is 100 yards long, but a football field isn't yardsticks. If I bend the yardstick, does the football field bend also? So if something, say, affects cesium atomic clocks or any modern clock for that matter, does that then ipso facto mean the Earth's alleged rotation in relation to the sun is affected? These two mathematical fairy tales, SR and GR, were falsified 30 seconds after their respective publications by third graders at recess, for goodness sakes. In total, each are massive reification fallacies on steroids. I mean, this is plain to see, just from the concept of time. So, I really don't need to go any further than this, but some people have told me, well, you need to go a little bit further, for comprehensiveness. So, okay, I'll do it. So, the grown-up falsification, non-locality in quantum mechanics, absolutely pummels into an impalpable powder Einstein and his fairy tales, right? It just does. And you're going to see this here over the next few minutes. So, non-locality. Non-locality occurs due to the phenomenon of entanglement, whereby particles that interact with each other become permanently correlated or dependent on each other's states and properties to the extent that they effectively lose their individuality and in many ways behave as a single entity. So because of this well-established phenomenon in 1935, which pummeled Einstein's fairy tales, GR and SR, Einstein coined the phrase, and we've all heard this at some point if you're not born in a closet and stayed there for the past 30 years, spooky action at a distance. Then he and his buddies, Podolsky and Rosen, conjured a thought experiment. It's called the Epr Paradox. Right here in 1935, this is a study right here. In a feeble, clumsy attempt to debunk quantum mechanics. Why? Well, Einstein couldn't have anything traveling faster than the speed of light because his theories would implode. Side note, he never published in physical review letters again because he didn't appreciate the paper being peer-reviewed. That is, he's a pretentious, pompous, pseudoscientific plonker philosopher with a calculator. Because of the seemingly impossibility of testing his thought experiment, it apparently covered the pretentious, pompous, pseudoscience, mytho-mathematical philosopher Bott, and the very public argument between he and Niels Bohr, who was of the opposite position, was relegated to the dustbin of history, never to be reconciled. But he isn't that lucky. But then in the 1960s, John Bell explored Einstein's alleged paradoxical thought experiment and proposed an inequality, Bell's inequality. If it was shown to be false, Einstein and his theories would take a dirt nap. Then John Clauser, a frustrated grad student because of his poor grades in quantum mechanics, was rustling through some books and papers in the campus library when he came across John Bell's paper. And that, as they say, folks, is history. Bell's inequality was first violated experimentally in 1972 by John Clauser and Stuart Freeman. Then, in 1982, Elena Spey jacked it yard forever. Therefore, Einstein and his theories equal dirt nap. He got debunked. Ever since Spey's falsification, non-locality has been confirmed by experiment roughly 1,875 times. I'm lowballing here, without exception. There's just a few of what you can find out there. New Scientist reality check from 2007. Speaking to this was a landmark experiment, the Groblacker experiment, experimental test of non-local realism in nature. There is no objective reality beyond what we observe. Leggett's inequality, along with Bell's, again, have been violated. Rather than passively observing it, we in fact create reality. Also in physics world, also had some things to say about this experiment. Go and look these up and read them for yourself. Validated and confirmed again for the 1874th time here from Manning. Wheeler's delayed choice Gann-Duncan experiment with a single atom from Nature Physics. Our experiment confirms Bohr's view that it does not make sense to ascribe the wave, not a wave, or a particle behavior to a massive particle before the measurement takes place. We were talking a little bit about the same concept before in the quantum mechanics presentation with the experiment in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, by Lapquicks, that validated the Cochin-Specker theorem. Was more or less talking about the same thing that's going on here. And another in just a flurry of blows, Henson, loophole-free Bell inequality violation using electron spins separated by 1.3 kilometers in Nature. Our data hence implies statistically significant rejection of the local realist null hypothesis. That means goodbye realism. This has connections to philosophical naturalism and realism. They're connected right by the lips with non-locality and quantum mechanics. Who else wants to chime in on realism? And we talked about this study before too. Zhao-Sung Ma from 2013. The quantum erasure with the causally disconnected choice from Pinas. The authors pummel naive realism and take local causality to the woodshed again. From the study, the presence of path information anywhere in the universe is sufficient to prohibit any possibility of interference. It is irrelevant whether a future observer might decide to require it. The mere possibility is enough. We went over this in depth during the quantum mechanics presentation a few weeks ago. I'd suggest going back there and reviewing that presentation. Therefore, the lack of which path information anywhere in the universe is sufficient enough to prohibit any possibility of wave function collapse. That's the formation of matter. Their conclusions from this experiment: no naive realistic picture, and realistic means realism, philosophical naturalism, atheism, in other words. No naive realistic picture is compatible with our results because whether a quantum could be seen as showing particle or wave-like. That's very important. Good thing they put it in here. I ain't going to get rid of it. They said wave-like. Behavior would depend on a causally disconnected choice. It is therefore suggestive to abandon such pictures altogether. Let me just go back to this. It's not suggestive, right? The reason why they state these kind of phrases, this suggestive, is because you can't come out in these scientific journals, Nature, PNAS, Royal Society, any of the big guys, and come out and directly challenge Einstein. You can't do it because you're not going to get published. So they weasel their way around it by using these phrases. It's suggestive. We have some little flowers all over it. Einstein's still okay. No, he's not okay. He's dead. His theories are dead. His fairy tale fairies. I'm sorry, fairy tale theories. I'm going to show you right there, not right now. Therefore, there are two doors that can be breached per the results of all these experiments. You only got two choices here. Door number one, information, however they conjure that, can travel faster than the speed of light. Listen, folks, there is no information here. Photons, at one part of whatever the universe is and split across for the other part of the universe, or electrons, aren't communicating with each other. They're not sentient. They're inanimate objects. They're not passing pineapple upside down cake recipes to each other. There's no information here. So this is a train wreck to begin with. Even if it wasn't, it's Einstein's theories are kablooey behind door number one. Door number two, we talked about this during the quantum mechanics presentation the last time, right? Space and time are illusions. A delayed choice quantum eraser validated this right here. And that is Einstein's theory kablooey. It doesn't matter which door you choose. Whichever one you choose, I'm standing behind there with a flamethrower. So take your pick. Doesn't matter. Einstein himself, after 30 years of attempting a unified theory, finally reckoned with it prior to his death and was partial to the latter door, as am I, this door, well before all these experiments took place. In a letter from Albert Einstein to his good buddy David Bohm on 28 October 1954, I must confess that I was not able to find a way to explain the atomistic character of nature. My opinion is that the objective description through the field as an elementary concept is not possible. Then one has to find the possibility to avoid the continuum together with space and time altogether. But I have not the slightest idea what kind of elementary concepts could be used in such a theory. He doesn't know, right? I got one. Quantum mechanics. So, in conclusion, to overturn the scientific falsification of locality, and by direct proxy, you can't eliminate this part. Philosophical naturalism, realism, that's atheism, whereby invalidating idealism, Christianity, which is not a religion, by the way, people. Go back to the presentation about a month ago, maybe 2 months now, a creator versus atheism. I explain why. And as an ancillary benefit, collect yourself a feather in your cap, Nobel Prize. Listen, you guys don't have to do anything. It's already made for you. You want to debunk all this stuff, it's already here for you. No recreating the wheel as of 2012 from the Quantum Randy Challenge. The Quantum Randy Challenge, henceforth the QRC, challenges any pseudoscientist, you as it were, who claims that quantum physics is not true and that quantum entanglement experiments can be explained by a classically realistic realism and locally causal model. A Nobel Prize and $1 million is being offered. It's still live. I just checked it. All you have to do is prove naive realism or local realism is true and not observation dependent. Better stated, knowledge independent. 6+ years now and still no takers, folks. I mean, this is a screaming testimony. You know, I don't have to monitor the process because I already know. It's impossible, right? It's impossible to reconcile all this with Einstein or any of his fairy tales and realism. So what we got, this is a bonus. This is a twofer. Einstein's mythomathematics and atheism pummeled into the incoherent oblivion in one fell swoop, right? We just took them both right to the woodshed. I kind of like doing that. Saves time. So let's conclude it with this. We don't have to go through any individual things. We could just listen to the talking heads tell you. Back to this again. Remember, from the chair of physics, the laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. You don't have separate laws for big and small things, right? This is quite clear. So, from David Bohm, Einstein's good buddy, one could see that relativity and quantum mechanics, the two most fundamental theories of matter, really contradict each other. In the sense that relativity is local, it's causal, it's determined, it's continuous, and quantum mechanics is just the opposite. From Caltech, general relativity and quantum field theory are incompatible. From Stanford, quantum mechanics is incompatible with general relativity because in quantum field theory, forces act locally through an exchange of well-defined quantum. So, in conclusion, how in the friggin' world can Einstein's mythomathematical fairy tales be viable and tenable with physics and at the same time stand in direct contradiction with all the physical laws? Physics, quantum mechanics, por favor. I mean, this is prima facie. This is right in your face stuff, right? You don't have to dig that deep to find all this stuff. It's probably going to take a little bit more than Wiki. I know that's going to be rough on most people. But this is right in your face. This is Formica deep. Anyone can find this. Why am I even having to present this? That's the question I have for everyone out there. If you didn't know this already, it's just reinforcement to you. If you're saying, wow, that's the first time I've ever seen it, why am I even presenting this? Right? So listen, thanks for your ear. Have a nice day. Hope it helps.
Is there anything you wanted to add on a personal note about the information that you've just passed on to the audience, John?
Man, I'm spent, man, from that. Like I said, even before I started, I was spent. On a personal note. Go ahead, say that again.
Well, I just want to kind of what you were saying before, you kind of alluding to that already, but, you know, kind of echoed the sentiments that you said before we started this presentation, or before you started, I should say.
Yeah, I can't remember. What did I say?
that you're kind of sick of it, you know, you're sick of having to tell people this stuff, basically.
Yeah, I don't want to go so far as to saying sick of going over it. Maybe for newer people, maybe I should, and I think I did categorize it that way for newer people, you know, because they're getting, you know, what everyone else gets, you know, off the cuff. If you're just looking superficially through this stuff, well, Einstein this and Einstein that, and quantum mechanics this and quantum mechanics that, but they never go deeper than that, you know, and then they start parroting it without going through here and evaluating whether this stuff makes sense or not. And it's real easy. Like I said, it's not too difficult to find this stuff, you know, other than wiki, and to understand it. So I don't want to dog everyone else, you know, everyone else out, but you know, there's some personal responsibility, you know, to take care of their own due diligence, you know, and figure this stuff out. I know, you know, the Globetard. I'm not talking to the Globetards here. I got it. You know, you guys are just parroting this stuff, wiki parroting, you know, wiki warriors. I got it. You know, and then whenever you come on one of the shows, all we have to do is just dig for Micah deep under there, you know, right after, before or after, or in between you interrupting us, and just ask you just little simple questions, right? And everything, your whole house of cards falls apart. You know, I've been waiting for people to come on and start talking smack.
That was one point that maybe we can round out by you summarising, John. So you said that they don't have scientific theories behind them, and it's because they don't have a hypothesis, or I forget which. I think it was an independent variable to be found. You can search, but you'll never find it. Maybe just reiterate that, and we can round out there.
Yeah, most of these, when they say theories and people just take the colloquial theory, well, that's a theory, that's a scientific theory. We got Einstein's theories. No, they're not scientific theories. They're colloquial theories. And they're just using it, just word games, right? That's how they fool Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker, because they know Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker, for the most part, are not going to go in here and evaluate these things. They got too many worries with with life and their job and their families and things. So all they have to do is just give lip service. You know, yeah, so general relativity, yeah, Einstein, he's for sure, Einstein's theories, scientific theories, yep, they're good. And some of these people, I can't believe it. You know, it's one thing to be Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker and sit at home and take this stuff in. It's another thing to start to come out here and parrot this stuff. Well, I'm your Huckleberry. I'm just waiting for you to say something. Right? I'm even setting you up. I'll set you up a few times, right? Because I'm loving it. It's like big hanging watermelon curveballs for me personally, right? So that's what cracks me up. These people parroting this stuff, they're incoherent. You know, every other sentence or every breath, they're contradicting themselves. So it's a circus out here, man. And I'm getting frustrated with it. Maybe it's time to take a little break for a little bit. You know, I don't know, dude. This is easy stuff, like I said. So now that we've taken Cavendish is done, Newton's done, Einstein's done. I mean, all they have left is the affirming the consequent, perspective hijacking, angular size change blinded, bulge compensating, wolf of diffraction limit ignorant, proof of nothing, Willie Yankin circle jerk calculator. That's all you got left to go back to, and we're waiting for you there. So please.
I think I'll round out there, John. That's probably a good note to round out on. So I'm going to say a massive thank you to you. That was a really good presentation, as ever. And if you're in the audience, check out Science versus Scientism. There'll be a playlist for that. But yeah, thank you very much, John. It's been a real pleasure.
You're welcome, sir.
And I will also say a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated this discussion, then you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!